Welcome to episode 67 of the Fluffy Fibres podcast, the French podcast in English on sewing, knitting and occasionally spinning a handmade wardrobe from head to toe. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Isabelle and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Fluffy Fibres, and you will find the show notes for all of the podcast episodes on my blog, which is fluffyfibres.com. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope you're all doing really well as the year draws to a close. I know we tend to be super busy this time of year, so I hope you're all coping okay. And I am really glad to be back with you today, not too long after my previous episode. So I do hope I can make this happen. It is a really crazy week for me, but I'm trying to just, take this hour, and then who knows when I'll have to edit this, but eventually it will get edited and posted. So first of all, I do need to address the change of setting and of background. I am in fact in my living room today because we have workers on the roof redoing the roof actually over my sewing turret. So there was no way I could film there today. Hopefully we won't get too much noise today. So yes, that's why I'm filming today in a completely different background. I do think I filmed in there when I had just had my son, because I was filming while he was sleeping next to me in the living room. But so maybe those of you who've watched the podcast before, a long time ago, 2 years ago, you may remember this place in my home. So yeah, it's been again super busy with so many things, and not least these roof works, and we're also redoing the floor of one of our bathrooms together, Seb and I, on our own. So yeah, you're not here for some home deck news, but yeah, it's really crazy here. And I have my Christmas concert on Saturday and Sunday of this week, so I'm actually filming this today to try and relax a little before the rest of the week becomes too hectic. So today's episode will be mostly devoted to knitting, since I talked about my sewing not so long ago. I do have one new thing to share, well, a couple of things to share in terms of sewing, which actually you can all see in the frame. So yeah, but yes, and then we have quite a bit of knitting to talk about. So to start with, I did want to say that I'm going to intersperse a few giveaways, pattern giveaways in this podcast today, since it will probably be the last podcast I can film before Christmas, so the last podcast of 2018, and I have a few giveaways for you today in terms of patterns. So the first one is the beautiful hat design by Vine Kristin. Hey Kristin, who recently released a gorgeous hat pattern using a strand of fingering weight yarn. She uses her Volker yarn, which is her MCN base, her merino cashmere nylon base, and a strand of her ghost lace, which is a mohair and silk lace yarn. It makes this beautiful fabric, which is very in at the moment, which is just so beautiful with a lovely halo, and it looks so delicate and luxurious. And so it's a beautiful textured hat, and Kristin was so very kind and offered a copy as a giveaway on the podcast. So thank you so much, Kristin. That really made my day. And I will be actually setting up a Ravelry thread for this in the Fluffy Fibres podcast Ravelry group. So just a thread for this contest. So thank you so much, Kristin. It's a gorgeous hat. Congratulations. I absolutely love all of your designs, and I really want to knit this hat actually. I just need to dig in my stash and find some suitable yarn for it. So let's move on to my knitting now. So I do have quite a bit to share with you, not least because I have something to share that actually finished during the summer, but that was released in October. And so I wasn't able to share it with you last time I podcast about my knitting. And so it is this pullover, this beautiful cabled pullover. So you have a cable on both sides of the pullover. And so this is the Furnace sweater by Marianne, who is also known as Marianne Knits on Instagram. And so she is a French pattern designer, and I was one of the test knitters for this design. I actually test knitted the English version, and let me tell you, this pattern is very, very complex. You have a lot going on at the same time, because you have, first of all, this quite scoop neckline with a lot of work at the beginning to, paying attention to this. You have some ribbing to accent the raglan. You have the cables, of course, on both sides, both back and front. And then you also have this interesting line, flare, if you want, of ribbing as well. So it's twisted ribbing, 1x1 twisted ribbing at the sides. You also are supposed to have a very interesting line of ribbing at the sleeves as well. But for reasons that I will get into it in a minute, I didn't add these. And I think the only other change I did, which is a sizable change, is that this is supposed to have a high-low hem, so to be longer in the back, and I just knit mine regularly with a straight hem, because I felt I would get more wear out of this. It would be more suited to my more classic sedate style. So yeah, I just felt I would be wearing it more. And of course I did that with the approval of the designer. Of course I wouldn't have done that otherwise, but she told me to just go ahead and do whatever I wanted to, bring whatever changes I wanted to. So yes, I absolutely love this sweater. It's knit in fingering weight. It uses, so my version uses a little over 1,000 yards, I think, about 1,000 meters of yarn. But the original version actually is supposed to use more than that because of the high-low hem. Even though I did make mine a little bit longer at the front to suit my style, my preference. The yarn for this is this gorgeous peacock blue, which was a very generous gift from a French friend who is Marianne, and I'll be mentioning Marianne in a minute as well. In a few minutes, in a while. But she very, very generously gave me this completely out of the blue, and so I knit this sweater out of it, and I absolutely love it. So the yarn is by the Uncommon thread. It's the Uncommon Everyday Base, which is 100% superwash merino, and the colour name is Pontus. So yes, the only thing is, so I had 3 skeins. So I knitted a size M. I should have knit a size S for no ease, but I was a bit concerned about the cable panels, because I tend to be quite a tight knitter when I'm knitting cables. So I just went a size up, and I absolutely love the fit on this. It fits beautifully. It's just zero ease, and it's just a lovely fit. And yeah, the thing is, the skeins were there was one of the skeins that was definitely a little lighter than the others, and you can actually see this. I'm not sure how well you will see this on screen. I think you can actually, but it does create a striping effect, which I absolutely don't mind. It's very, very subtle in real life, so I absolutely don't mind this. And I actually think it adds a lot of interest to it. But yeah, it did mean I had to alternate all 3 skeins, not just 2 skeins, but all 3 skeins, because one of them was so different from the others. And so that is why I didn't add the detail at the sleeves, because alternating 3 skeins on a very tight circumference was no fun, and I was just ready to be done by that point. So I just felt I would completely mess up this 1x1 twisted ribbing that was. It's very lovely. If you can look at other project pages for this pattern, it kind of twists around, so it's really, really interesting. I'm so impressed with this design, really. Marianne Knits. is Marianne. I'm not sure if you're watching, but if you are, hello, cuckoo. But she's such a lovely designer and such a lovely person to test knit for. You had a lot of time to knit this, and lovely communication, and her designs are just so complex, sophisticated, but also so flawless in terms of the phrasing, the clarity. So it is a sizable piece of work, I will not lie. This is definitely probably my most involved knit of this year, of 2018. But you really, she holds your hand throughout the process, so that in the end you are left with this incredibly satisfying, rewarding piece in your wardrobe that you're really, really proud of. So thank you, Marianne, for letting me test knit for you. Maybe another time I will test knit again for you if I have time. But yes, so Furnace Sweater by Marianne Knits, and it's available as a download on Ravelry. And so this is my first little hidden gem in the podcast. In the spirit of Christmas, I just want to offer a copy of this design, myself, to just gift it to one of you on Ravelry. So I will be posting an Instagram post for a giveaway for a copy of this design. So this was actually knit in during the summer, so it was already finished by the time I last podcast, but it was a really secret knit, so test knit, so I couldn't share it with you. What I did knit over the autumn is, first of all, actually a couple of cardigans, one for each of my children. So first of all, I knit a cardigan for my little boy. So for those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here, and I do hope you enjoy the podcast. So first of all, I don't think I said this at the beginning of the episode, but I'm as you can obviously tell from my accent, I'm French, and I live in southern France, in Montpellier, and I have two children. I have a girl who is 6.5 years old, and a little boy who is almost 2.5. And so the funny thing is, my girl is very much, in terms of her, style, complexion, she's very much like me. Even more so than me. She's really, really pale with dark hair and really blue eyes like her father. So she definitely is a winter in terms of the season colorings. If you go by this kind of thing, she's definitely a winter. So she looks amazing in deep, cool tones, really. Whereas my son is much warmer. His hair is honey colored. It's darkening, but it's definitely a warm honey, a warm burnt honey, if you want. And he has really dark. He has the same eyes as that I do. So really, really dark brown eyes, and his complexion is a lot warmer. So he looks amazing in warm tones, and he absolutely loves red. He looks amazing in browns, taupes, oranges, reds, and he loves red. He loves red. So I made him a red cardi, which is this little hoodie. As you can see, it has a hood, and I really, really like this. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I think I was already knitting it last time I podcast about my knitting, and so the design is really lovely. It's a great design for kids, wonderful unisex design as well. It is the Little Spring Hoodie by Suvi Simola, and so of course mine is an autumn hoodie, but who cares? So it's a DK weight cardigan, and I knit it out of, so let me show you. I knit it out of a French yarn very local from where I'm from. Look how well it matches our advent calendar, actually. But yeah, so it's a French yarn, actually from the north of France. It's a mill yarn, so it's Textile de la Marque, which is produced in Tourcoing. So in the north of France, and I'm from that particular spot in France. And so I got this yarn when I was in the north of France 2 or 3 years ago. I think 2 years ago, because my son was already born. Yeah, 2 years ago, because I actually purchased this yarn for him. It is called Cash Soft, and it's 100% lamb's wool. And yeah, so it's a beautiful, super, super soft yarn. And it has this beautiful drape. And of course the colour, this tomato red, is just amazing. And so yeah, I really, really love this design. As you can see, it's really fun to knit because they have this panel of reverse stockinette at the front, which runs also down the back. Hopefully you can see this. And yeah, the hood is, you start with knitting the hood. You also have the panel of reverse stockinette actually starts at the hood and runs down the fronts, continuously with the hood. So it's a beautiful construction. I did do a few things differently, especially in terms of the finishing and the button band, because you are supposed to have to finish the edges with an I-cord and work button bands into the I-cord. And I realised when I looked at the project pages for this design that quite a few of the cardigans were actually rolling. That's quite noisy. I do hope you can still hear me properly. But yeah, so quite a few of the cardigans, the finished cardigans, had a tendency to roll out. Also, knowing myself, I'm perfectly capable of having a cardigan finished, lovingly hand knit, and then have it languish for so much time in a corner just because I have a little bit of finishing to do. I think a lot of us are like that. But so what I did is that I actually added, when I cast on, I added 8 extra stitches so that I had a 4-stitch button band at each edge, at each end. And so the button band is in seed stitch. Yeah, the button band is in seed stitch. You're probably also able to see that the buttons for this are little pirates, which I purchased last year, and actually for this cardigan. Okay, let me see if I can get it to focus on one little pirate. There you go. So yes, and of course this is by far my son's favourite feature in the cardigan, although he also really, really loves the hood. Actually, he didn't used to like hoods, but since I've made this for him, he just wants to wear his hoods all the time. So, but yeah, he is very appreciative of this cardigan. It's super warm and soft, really, really, really nice. Actually, I knit it with 4.5 millimeter needles, and I typically knit DK weight with 4 millimeter needles. I wonder if actually this design wasn't designed for a worsted weight yarn. That might be it, but I still decided to try and get gauge with this yarn, this DK yarn, and I did, and I really, really love the finished fabric. Actually, it's so drapey. So I know it might pill a little more. Hopefully it won't be too bad, we'll see. But it really is super drapey and comfortable. So yes, he looks amazing in this. I'm so happy I made this for him. In such a happy colour as well. I think that will definitely, we took pictures of it this weekend, and I think it's definitely going to be a great cardigan. We'll definitely be remembering this cardigan from the pictures and so on and so forth. So yes, actually this is typically a cardigan which I finished, I finished it quite a while ago, and I only sewed the buttons in a week ago. So typically something that has been languishing, just waiting for buttons. I have to say though, it's been so incredibly warm here, so crazy warm, that he hasn't really needed it yet. He did need it this weekend, but really the weather is so weird. It's been so weird this year, really. I don't want to turn this podcast into weather talk, but honestly, we had such an incredibly hot and long summer, and we're having unseasonably warm temperatures for December. Usually we have rather snappy, windy and cold Decembers. Typically it can get colder in the morning than in northern France, even though, you know, because we have so much sun, it gets warmer during the day. But it hasn't been the case so far, and it's super, super weird to think that Christmas is less than 2 weeks away and we're just still, you know, wearing transitional weather clothes. So really worrying as well, obviously. So yes, after that I knit a couple of things for my daughter. So first of all, I did another test knit for a very, very good friend who is Marie, who is Le Nid de la Linotte on Ravelry, on Instagram, and on Ravelry as well. So she's a French friend, very near from here actually. So she is starting to design patterns, and I'm so glad about this. I'm so excited because I absolutely love her aesthetics. So she designed these little leg warmers, which, as you can see, have these little clouds on them. And so there is a series of them, so in various sizes, from baby to adult. And then you also have socks, adult socks, with this design at the top as well. The socks are stripy, and then you have this design at the top. And so I knit these for my daughter. They are supposed to be short because they're just supposed to be like really decorative, or just, you know, peeking from the top of a boot, which is also how my daughter has been wearing them. So they're really, really fast and satisfying to knit. They knit up so fast. And my daughter absolutely loves them. She really, really does love them. So that's quite lovely. And so I knit this to match a sweater I knit for my daughter last year for another French designer who is Marianne. And I'll be again talking more about Marianne in a minute. So the blue is a beautiful hand-dyed yarn with tweed, which is by Little French Meadow. And one of the dyers, Little French Meadow, is made of 2 dyers, and one of them is a really, really good friend. And often I think she does watch the podcast, so hello Yola, hope you're doing really, really well. And so yes, they had this 2 skein pack as a special last year, and I just completely fell in love with this blue because it really matches my daughter's eyes, and it's their favourite colour as well. So I purchased the 2 skeins and knit the pullover. So I have quite a bit of yarn left over from these 2 skeins because her sweater just took 1 skein and just a little bit of the second one. And so yeah, hence these leg warmers. The grey yarn is different from her pullover because for her pullover I used some drops merino, and here I used some alpaca by La Droguerie, which, this is going to sound so crazy, but I actually purchased this alpaca when I was pregnant with my daughter, so 7 years ago, I purchased just enough to make her a tiny little cardi, and then I just didn't get around to making this particular cardi. I made her a ton of things, a ton of cardigans. She was born in the winter, and it was a super cold winter, like -15 for a couple of weeks actually when she was born. So she had a ton of hand knits, but I didn't get around to using this particular yarn, and so it had been sitting around in my stash for all that time. And so I finally used a bit of it for this, and I do love it because it's fuzzy, so it adds a little bit of texture, of interest to the little clouds, I think. So I think it really goes well with the tweed. So yes, big success, and I really, really want to make a pair for myself to match my daughter. My daughter and I absolutely love matching in the weekends. We tend to dress likewise. We absolutely love to do that. Like, we have similar boots, you know, anyway. And so I think it would be really, really fun for me to have matching leg warmers, picking out from the top of my boots, and so that we can match as well and be fabulous together on weekends. Yes, so I actually didn't even tell you the name, although I'm sure I will have written it somewhere on the screen, but these are the Guêtre Asia, so Asia leg warmers by Le Nid de la Linotte, who is Marie. So after that, I started on a cardigan for my daughter, but I just felt like I wanted to knit something for myself. And, you know, these projects, whilst not being super, super long, are rather time intensive. And I just wanted to, you know, have a fun, quick project for once, because I tend to always knit really, really, you know, long projects. And so I finally decided what I wanted to knit out of my beautiful skein of Tor by Blacker Yarns. Tor is their limited edition for this year, for their birthday yarn. It's an Aran weight, and I reviewed it in a few episodes ago, maybe in episode 65 actually. And I also showed it on Instagram. You can also find a highlight in my stories on Instagram where I share the, you know, the color the shade card, and I made this little coaster actually out of a sample that I got. I showed this last time I recorded, but it's a little coaster that I absolutely love using for my cup of tea, which it is actually here for right now on my table. So I purchased one skein of their beautiful dusky pink, which is called Lan Lavery, and I made a hat out of it. So I had been searching for Aran weight cabled hats for a while. I didn't want something too complex. This goes really well with my dress actually. I didn't want something too complex, and so I'd been looking and looking and looking, and then one day I looked and this pattern had just been published on Ravelry, and actually it was free for the first few days. It was actually a free design. It is now a paid for pattern, but it's so beautiful because you have an alternation of really, really large cables that create this really soft effect, and then tied to cables here, and you see how this this crosses just in the middle of this one. I absolutely love this. It's really beautifully designed. It's super easy to knit, really, really addictive. I knit this in 2 short evenings, meaning I didn't have much time each evening to knit, and it just, you know, bang, it was done. And yes, I did. I know that this is really bad. I have a polyester pom-pom here, which goes completely against everything I tend to talk about on the podcast, against all of my concerns. You know, if you know me, you know that trying to have a sustainable way of life, trying to use materials that are gentle to the earth is really something important to me. But I just felt this needed this kind of you know, faux fur pom-pom. So yeah, I know. On the plus side, this, you know, it's very easy to take this off. Actually, it's just knotted inside. So what I'm thinking of doing is just have this one pom-pom and use it for all of the possible hats I'm in it in the future, so that I don't, you know, accumulate faux fur at home. But I don't know, it just called for it. So, just so you know, you see how it works. So yeah, here you go. Yeah, I absolutely love this hat, and I'm realizing that the more time passes, and the more I'm in love with pink. I'm really very much a cool toned, like blue and purple girl. That these are really my favorite colors. But I realize, you know, over the past few years, I've been gravitating more and more towards this kind of soft, dusky pink. So yes, I think I will have to, you know, factor that in my future projects for 2019. Knit more pink and sew more pink fabrics as well. But yeah, I really like this shade. It's so soft and so soothing, you know. And so the reason why I knit this is that I have a shawl, which is right there, which I knit 3 years ago now, which is definitely my most worn shawl. It is the Windswept shawl by a homespun house, and honestly, this is the, you know, if I only had one shawl in my shawl catalogue, it would be okay, because it would be this one, and it's pretty much the only shawl I ever wear. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love this colour. This is Malabrigo Silky Merino. I think the colorway was Madre di Perla or something like that. And so this goes amazingly well on on two of my handmade coats. I have a grey coat, a dark grey coat, which I made using the Pavo coat pattern by Durando, which is now discontinued, which wasn't lined. I think it's one of the reasons why they discontinued it. But I actually lined my coat, so it's typically the coat I'm wearing at the moment when it's not too cold. And then when it's really, really cold, one of my really, really heavy coats is a deep purple. So this goes really well with it. And so this is why I made this, because they work really well together and they are going to work really well with both my grey coat and my purple coat. So yes, this design is Favorite Cable Beanie by Lindsay, who is the Chesapeake Needle. I think that's how you say it. I'm very sorry if I'm butchering this. The Chesapeake Needle on Instagram and Ravelry, and she's really, really lovely actually. When I posted this on Instagram, she was so incredibly kind. So yes, super, super nice design, really satisfying. So after that, I did get back to my daughter's cardigan, and actually I just finished it. So I finished knitting it, I finished the knitting, and so it's not, I still need, I blocked it, I still need to weave in the ends and add buttons, but I need, my daughter and I need to find some time together so that we can pick buttons from my button box. I'm sure we'll have tons of options available because it's such a neutral colour, so many possibilities really. So actually, well, it's still a little wet, so I think I'll have to put it back onto a mat, because you can't really see it well here, but hopefully you can see that it has this column of tiny cables running down each front. It's a raglan cardigan with a garter stitch, garter stitch edgings for the upper edge and the button bands. I did use some ribbing for the sleeves. I always do that because I tend to knit my children's sleeve really, really long so that they can wear these for several years. So actually I also did that for my son's cardi. Actually I didn't even tell you the size for my son's cardi. So I knit a size 4 years. So he's 2.5, he's really tall. So he typically wears 3-year clothes at the moment. And so this obviously is going to, well, hopefully is going to fit him for at least this year and the next. It's not too baggy on him, it's okay. It's a little long, but it's okay. And of course right now he's wearing this with the ribbing folded up. And so the same is true for my daughter's cardigan. So this actually is a design, if you can call this a design I improvised. So it's a very, very basic raglan shape, and I just added this, these tiny cables, as a design, a little bit of fun, for a little bit of fun. I actually knit this exact same cardigan for her in a blue yarn, softly self-striping 2 years ago, and she absolutely adores this cardigan. It's just her favorite thing that I think that I've ever knit her. And anyway, it's definitely the one she wears the most. And so she's really been missing a handmade grey cardigan in her wardrobe to go with everything, you know. So yeah, it was a high time I knit her this, and I know she's going to wear this so, so much. So it's a beautiful yarn. It's actually I think it's my favorite yarn in the entire universe. It is, surprise, surprise, De Rerum Natura in Gilliatt. So it's the worsted weight woolen spun yarn, which I absolutely love. And the shade is Goéland. Not sure, well, yeah, the shade is Goéland. And so yeah, it's this wonderful French wool, made with local sheep in the centre of France, French and Portuguese merinos, and it's a really, really wonderful yarn. You know, I've knit this yarn so many times now. I have quite a collection of Gilliatt hand knits at home, which is really wonderful. I have their blue one, which I knit a Kira out of. I have the beautiful dusty mauve, which I knit a Katzahana out of. Seb has a sweater that I knit him out of this as well in an undyed shade. So yes, I also knit a blanket for one of my little nieces out of the natural shades, you know, squares out of all the natural shades of this yarn. So it's just the best yarn in the world. It's so substantial and warm and cushy and yet really, really soft. And so yes, so this is their, I would say, silver grey, middle grey. It does have this beautiful, hopefully you can see that heathered effect, because it's a mix of, you know, several shades of merino. It is over-dyed, but, you know, you can definitely see that there's a mix of different shades of merino in there. So yes, as you can see, I've been quite selfless in my knitting these past few months, and I've knit a lot of things for my children. I would actually love to knit another sweater for Seb. He really deserves one, and I know he would hugely appreciate it. He keeps wearing the one I knit him, which I knit him I think actually 3 years ago, and it hasn't aged at all, even though he wears it so very much. So I know he would love another one. But he keeps telling me to knit for myself, so... But yeah, definitely in early 2018 I would love to knit him like a dark blue sweater. So, since I just finished knitting my daughter's cardigan, and because I'm a fairly monogamous knitter, it means I don't have much going on in terms of knitting at the moment. I'm in between projects. But I do have a pair of socks on the go that I started in September, and then, as is typical for me, just left languishing for a while. But I picked them up again last night because I had nothing else to knit on. We had a bit of time to watch Outlander last night, and so I picked them up again. So they are in my beautiful, super cute Écheveau Solidaire bag. I really, really like this. Well, first of all, the drawing here, the painting, but also these ties. Definitely, you know, drawstring bags are definitely my favourite for knitting. You know, this one squishes up really, really nicely into my work bag, so that's really, really handy. And so I'm almost done. I actually started knitting the toe last night on my second sock of my beautiful self-striping socks, which are the Isabelle colourway by Lovebird Lane Yarns. So let me show you, first of all, the label. Here you are. And there you go. And so let me put the first sock onto a blocker. Okay, so there you go. How beautiful is this? I absolutely love the shades. So Julianne, who is the genius behind Lovebird Lane Yarns, does these beautiful self-striping yarns, and she has a fangirl collection with 4 of her favourite podcasters' favourite colours. And so this is mine. This is my colourway. This is the colourway that she designed after my favourite colours. So actually, you see, she is spot on. She did know that I liked dusty pink. I think I've just been in denial on this myself. But yeah, so you have blue, of course, and purple, grey, and dusky pink. And yeah, so I'm almost done with the second one. And the minis I'm using for the heel and toe are from the Knitting Goddess. I really, really like that blue for the toe. So yes, I think I will have a finished pair of socks by the end of the week, which is super exciting. So my Isabelle self-striping socks by Lovebird Lane Yarns. And for my recipe is really based on Susan B. Anderson's How I Make My Socks blog post, and so they are top-down, cuff-down socks. And for the heel, I always use the heel in Hermione's Everyday Socks because I absolutely love this Eye of Partridge heel with garter stitch edging. So yes, that's my typical vanilla sock recipe for me. And I cast on 56 stitches for my size. Yeah, I think that's all you need to know. Yeah, 2x2 ribbing for the cuff. And that's it. So finally, in terms of my projects, current projects, or rather upcoming projects, I have been swatching for a new cardigan for myself in a very neutral yarn, as you can see, because this is exactly what I need in my wardrobe to wear over my light dresses. And I am swatching for a cardigan by Marianne, who is Margonnet Designs on Instagram and Ravelry. And all of her designs are in French and English, and all the proceeds go to cancer research. And she recently released this one, and it's a beautiful cardigan, you know, the same kind of cardigan as the vitamin D, and you know, with short rows to shape the fronts, and it's in DK weight, and it has this beautiful edging with an I-cord and some sort of a braided edging, which is really, really lovely. You also have cables at the bottom of the cardigan. And so the minute this came out, I just wanted to knit it. Actually, Marianne was kind enough to actually gift me the pattern, which was super, super kind. And so I purchased some other de Rerum Natura. Actually, I purchased this at the same time as the yarn for my daughter. And this is the Penelope yarn, which is a new base that Solène developed. Well, she used to have a Penelope base, which was 100% merino. And last spring, she came out with new bases for the fingering and GK base weights, which are this 90% merino and 10% silk. And this is worsted spun, not woolen spun, so it does give a very different kind of yarn from the Gilead or the Cyrano. Also, her Ulysse yarn is, to me, it's a DK, it's a sport weight to DK weight, and it is also woolen spun. So you have quite a nice selection now in among the, you know, the line of de Rerum Natura. And so I had never tried this new base, so I purchased a very, very neutral shade, as you can see, which is called Orgeat. There you go. And so it is this like a very, very light oatmeal, if you want. But yeah, so this is going to be perfect to make a cardigan to go over my transitional weather dresses, really, so that I can bring them into winter as well, into the cold weather. So I'm very, very excited about this. So I made a couple of swatches. I'm not quite sure yet which one I'll be using. We'll see. I need to mull this over a little. I tend to mull a little about my swatches. I don't know about you, but yeah, I need to think about these quite a bit. You know, because it's all a matter of, it's not just a matter of hitting the right gauge, but also, you know, is the drape right, you know, and hitting that perfect spot between having the right gauge, but not having a fabric that is too fragile either. But yeah, so, but I definitely have realized the more I knit, and the more I like my fabric to be drapier, really. And so, talking of the Alice cardigan by Marianne, because Marianne so very kindly gifted me the pattern, and I really wanted to purchase it from her, I have decided to gift a copy of the pattern to one of you. So if you would like to win a copy of the pattern, just leave a comment here on YouTube, and I will enter you into a random drawing for the pattern. It's a really lovely pattern. So yes, that is it for all of my knitting, and I did want to share a couple of designs that have come out that I absolutely love. So first of all, there is the Romy pullover by Along Avec Anna, who is a French designer who lives in the UK, and she has been designing up a storm over the past year or so, and she has this beautiful aesthetic, very delicate, very feminine, understated, that I absolutely love. And she has been designing quite a few sweaters, cardigans that I really, really love. And her last one I think is my absolute favourite, and it's the Romy. And it's like a slightly boxy sweater with this, you know, drop shoulder construction and knit from the bottom up with this beautiful lacy edge, and I absolutely love it. And so it's knit with a strand of fingering and a strand of mohair and silk lace. So I do have the perfect yarn in my stash for it. With these 3 skeins of Sarah's Texture Crafts, who sadly no longer dyes yarn because she developed an allergy to wool, actually, very sadly. But I absolutely loved Sarah's work. She was increasingly concerned with, you know, bringing us, you know, local wool, non-superwash wool. This is a beautiful Falkland merino, which is very much on the plump side. I'm not sure how much you will be able to see this, but it's really, really plump. Beautiful colour, of course, very much my style, very much my cup of tea. And so actually you do need a plumper weight for it. Anna actually used a sport weight, or, you know, yeah, a very, very plump fingering or sport weight. She used yarn from Mollview Yarns, which is Mollview Farm, which is super gorgeous. So yeah, I will be getting some mohair and silk lace to match this. And I'm really, really excited. I think this is going to be my New Year's cast on. So I do need to get on with my Alice cardigan so that I can get cracking on this. And the other design that I really fell in love with lately is from the latest Pom Pom magazine. So I forgot to bring the Pom Pom magazine down, and it's in my sewing turret, which is a huge mess I just don't want to get into right now. So I will share a picture on the screen, but it's the Nimu pullover. It is a design by Aurelia Reyes, and it has such an interesting construction. It's DK weight as well. I must have a thing for DK weight things at the moment, because in fact, you know, the Romy sweater is going to be a DK weight in the end. You can actually knit it with DK weight yarn, and it's really, really gorgeous, really, really very boxy, and has this super interesting construction. So yes, that might be one to consider for next year. I'm not sure, we'll see. Because I also have so many other projects in my queue that I would really like to get to. So yes, we'll see. Right, so I think that's it for my knitting actually. And so I'll move on to my sewing, which is going to be a much quicker segment. So you have 2 elephants in the room today that are actually rather clashing. I do apologise for this. But first of all, you do have my daughter's advent calendar that she mostly sewn on her own. So I'm super, super proud of her for that. It still needs a bit of quilting on my part actually, which is why it's drooping a little bit. And the reason why I haven't been able to do that is because of the works in my sewing turrets on the roof and so on and so forth. I just haven't been able to. Obviously the machines are safe, have been put away, and so I haven't been able to quilt it yet, but it still is functional. And of course the kids wanted to have it you know, on December the 1st for Advent. But yeah, so it's this panel, and so you have these strips of fabric that you sew onto the panel all around, and with some top stitching to make the little pockets. And my daughter did a really, really good job with it. You really do need to sew straight for this to work, and I'm very impressed with how well she did. The one thing I did do was assemble the front to the back panel, which is this really fun gingerbread and candy cane and Christmas tree background. And so I did that because it was really quite difficult to do. I mean, it's really tricky quilting. I feel myself, you know, quilting is really tricky. The final assembly with the batting inside and so on is rather tricky, even for an adult. So I didn't want her to get discouraged with it. So I did finish this. I did add a sleeve all along the top so we could insert a rod here to hang it. So yeah, it's very festive, very fun to have in our living room. We're so glad she did that, and we finished it on time, almost, for Advent. And the other sewn thing that I finished, I shared on Instagram this week, and it's the dress I'm wearing, which really is my new favourite dress. At least autumn winter dress. So it is an Aldaya dress by Pauline Alice, and I absolutely love this design. It's my third dress from this design. I always use the same bodice, which is this wrap over bodice with these little pleats here, and you have this like large binding bound finishing, and for the sleeves here I use the longer sleeves with also this little band to finish it. For the skirt I used another skirt because the skirt in the design is really wide, and I didn't have enough fabric for this, and two, I actually like the skirt I used best. Here you just have a front and a back pattern piece, and the skirt I used is from the Hot Patterns Cosmopolitan dress. It's a skirt I really like for knit dresses, knit fabrics. So yeah, as usual I knit this in tiny increments, so it took me quite a few weeks, but even in the end I had my dress and it made me really happy. This is a fabric I love so much, this cotton jersey. I remember when I found it online, I absolutely loved it, and it was sold out, and I was just so disappointed. And then a few months later, the website, which was tissu.net, the website had a sale with their remnants, and lo and behold, there was a remnant of this fabric for 30% off, which was 2 meters, a 2 meter cut all around that, which is perfect for a dress for me. So of course I snapped it up, and here you are. So yes, Aldaya by Pauline Alice, my absolute favorite pattern for knit dresses. You have so many options in this pattern in terms of bodice, of skirt, of sleeve length, and it's a great number, this one. That is already it for my sewing. If you feel you don't have time to sew, don't get discouraged. I mean, you can really make some progress with tiny increments. I feel like I never have the time to sew, and it's quite discouraging, but I still manage to achieve a few projects just by one evening I'll cut out a pattern, the other I cut out the fabric, and so on and so forth. I know it's easier when you have a dedicated sewing space, but still I think it's because it's so rewarding at the end to have finished a sewing project. So I know a lot of people who watch the podcast tell me they're a little intimidated with sewing. They really would like to sew clothes like I do, but they don't feel they have the time. And it's just like everything, like anything, you just have to practice and just get started to get done, really. Even I often feel like I'm too tired or too busy to start sewing, but every time I finally get to it, I'm so happy that I did. It's just my time to relax, listen to my favorite podcasts, and or just sing or listen to music, and yeah, it's very precious. Even if it's just 5 minutes, sometimes it's just 5 minutes a week, but it's better than nothing, and it's 5 very intense minutes, So yes, finally I did want to share some really lovely mail that I've received, which is going to be my Christmas Eve cast on for this year. So I'm really excited. So again, it's a little bit outside of the efforts that I've been doing over the past few years to use really sustainable yarn, non-superwash, and so on and so forth, especially not purchase this kind of material. But I really fell in love with this, and I'm so glad I did purchase this. So here it is. It is a skein, a sock set for DK weight socks by Hetero Yarns, and I've been wanting to purchase a skein from Hetero Yarns for so long. I absolutely love Jane's aesthetics and her colours. So she's in the UK, and so this was my first order with her, and it came so beautifully packaged, and I got a lovely mini with it as well as a gift, which I absolutely love. And so yes, I've been wanting to knit more like thicker, warmer socks for myself, because I tend to wear my hand knit socks only at home, and when I do need wool socks, you know, we have tile floors here it's so typical, it is typical of southern France. You want really, really cool floors for the summer, but then they're really, really cold in the winter as well. And so I've been feeling like it would be really wise for me to have thicker socks, cushier socks, and of course also they knit very, very fast. So yes, this is going to be my Christmas Eve cast on for this year, and I'm very, very excited about this. But yeah, I know it breaks my rules a little bit about, you know, no nylon, non-superwash yarn, but you know, I'm still supporting an independent dyer, and there is something I would really like to address actually about this, and I'll end the podcast on this because my screen is flashing that I'm out of battery. I hope it'll be okay. But yeah, I always want to make it sure that, you know, when I'm talking about my my concern for sustainability, I really want you to know that this is in no way for me passing a judgment on anyone. I think we're all doing, well, most of us are doing what we can and making some efforts, and it's easier for some than for others, you know, to try and be sustainable for obviously financial reasons, for other reasons as well. So I really wanted to make sure, as this year closes, that whenever I'm talking about my trying to find like organic fabric or, you know, ethical wool, that it does not reflect on the way you choose to choose your material. I really wanted this really, really clear, because it's not at all in me to be judgmental about people. So I'm not sure I'm phrasing this really well, but I'm sure you will have caught my drift. But yeah, anyway. So talking of Christmas, I just wanted to wish you a very, very happy holiday season. I hope it's a good one for you. I hope it's not too hurtful of hard if there are reasons for you to have a hard holiday season. I know it can be really, really hard. And yeah, I'm just thinking of all of you who may find it hard. Know that you're not forgotten, and to all of you, I do hope you find some joy and some happiness and some lovely happy times during this festive season. I really don't think I will be podcasting again before the end of the year, so if you're interested in any of the patterns that I was talking about today, the sparkling cider by Wool and Vine, or the Alice cardigan, or the furnace sweater, do make sure you enter, because that is my little gift to you for your support this year, and so I do hope you take advantage of it. So until next year, I hope your making brings you joy. Bye bye, friends.